Why might this be the game for Nebraska to clear some of the most elusive hurdles that stand in front of Matt Rule's program? We'll get into it next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thank you for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, good morning. Here we go. It's a big Friday around here. Connor Happer from 1620 The Zone, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. We have Nebraska and Wisconsin football, which will take up most of the podcast. We might have a little hit on Creighton and Nebraska basketball, which is coming up tonight from downtown Omaha. So stay tuned for that. But Nebraska football is riding a 10-game losing streak against Wisconsin, dating back to the horrific Big Ten championship game of 2012, and ending last. Well, not ending yet.
It has not ended.
It hasn't been ended yet, but Nebraska will go for that. Nebraska has one win in this series since these two teams have been in the Big Ten. That was earlier in 2012, and each team was wearing absolutely horrific uniforms.
Oh, it was a throwback day.
Horrific uniforms. So Nebraska's looking to get a win in normal uniforms, maybe for one of the first times ever in this series. Mitch?
Senior day for the Huskers. Going to be emotions at Memorial Stadium. All of these guys who made the decisions last offseason, and there were a number of them, to come back and take Nebraska to the next level. They go into the last home game of their careers, still yet to do that. So motivation should not be an issue.
All right, let's do it. Let's go through some of the numbers here. And then you'll get a pretty good idea of where this thing is headed on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 from Memorial Stadium on the Big Ten Network. We'll start, as we always do, with Dylan Raiola's passing yards number. We're setting it at 174.5. It certainly hasn't been very prolific as of late for Dylan Raiola. The yards per attempt are way down. But we'll put that number at 174.5.
His completion percentage is still very high. It's up over 65%. And I looked at the numbers after the USC game, and I almost thought it was a misprint because 28 of 37. You know, you tend to remember the throws that he misses, and he's missed more throws that early in the season. A lot of his misses were off the hands of his receivers, or it was just a very difficult throw where he tried to squeeze it into a pocket, and you wouldn't necessarily look at it and say it was a bad throw. Lately, there's been more of those things that have been bad throws or just off target. I'm gonna say now Wisconsin's giving up 164 a game, one of the better pass defenses in the Big Ten. I'm going to say that Dylan goes over 174.5, so he gets to 175, which, I mean, is quite a bit under his average, but of late, this is maybe not an unexpected number.
Me too. I'm going over as well. I could see him reaching 200 in this game. I think they'll open it up a little bit. I think you'll see Nebraska try to take a couple more shots down the field. Remember, they took one shot vertically in the first throw of the game against USC and never really found it again until a little bit later. So I think you'll see a little bit more of that as Dana Holgorsen gets comfortable and as Dylan gets more comfortable. I'm going to go over there.
Yeah, that was the subject of one of our prop picks that we'll discuss when we revisit how we did last week.
All right, we take a look at an all-important number in this series, Mitch. Wisconsin's team rushing yards, 169.5 is where we're going to set this. I'd like to add some historical context to this before you make your choice. So Wisconsin's averaging 169 a game, which is 6th in the league, 57th in the country. In this series, Nebraska and Wisconsin have played 12 times since the two teams have been in the Big Ten together. Wisconsin, as a team, has ran for 3,463 yards in those 12 games. Of course, one of which was a Nebraska win. That is 288.5 yards a game. and that's not good. There is multiple 500-yard rushing games in here.
It was skewed by the one game where Wisconsin ran for 12,000 yards.
It wasn't the one game. Yeah. It wasn't the one game. There was back-to-back games where that happened. The Big Ten championship game in 12 and then the Melvin Gordon game in 2014, both giving up over 500 yards rushing. And it hasn't been pretty for the last 5 years either. Nebraska's given up 370, 320, 252, 235, and 156 over the last 5 years in this series. It has been a train wreck trying to stop Wisconsin on the ground. Wisconsin's almost run for 2 miles against Nebraska since these two teams have been in the Big Ten. So with that, I'd like your selection.
The names Monty Ball, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, you just can go on. They just strike fear into the hearts of it's the stuff of nightmares for Nebraska. As much as anything else, it's as much as the consecutive losses against ranked teams, which many of these games have been a part of that streak, as much as the difficulty in overtime, at the ends of games, in one-score games. Like this one is right up there with what Wisconsin backs have done against Nebraska. Wisconsin has a good one this year too in Tawee Walker. I'm going to say Wisconsin goes under 169.5. Having said all of that,
it's bold, but I agree. Just one time in this series has Nebraska held Wisconsin under in this series since the two teams have been in the Big Ten. Have they held them under 140? And that was when they held them to 56 yards in 2012 and won the football game in Lincoln. Yeah. So I'm going to say under. I think Nebraska's run defense with their older players is up for the challenge, and they put up a decent looking number on Saturday.
Okay. Let's keep going. Let's through these things.
Lead changes. This game's going to be close. Everyone knows this game's going to be close. We're going to set the lead changes mark at 1.5, which is kind of a lot for a football game.
Yeah, I think the lead will change more than once. I'll say two or more. So over on the lead changes.
It's weird because Nebraska in these close games, they're rarely like back and forth. You know,
it's true.
They're rarely kind of push and pull that way. So I'll say under, and that's all anecdotally. But I'll say under just because that's not how they've gone for Nebraska.
Okay. So just one lead change or none is what you got. Okay.
One or none. Yeah. All right. The total 42.5 in this game. Last year's total between the two teams was 41. Before that, and then 2 years ago, it was 29 when Nebraska lost 15-14 in Lincoln. Before that, 63, 58, 65, and 55. So we've been all over the board. Nebraska's lost high-scoring games. They've lost low-scoring games. What do you think Saturday?
I'm going under. I think it's going to be a defensive day. Kind of chilly at Memorial Stadium. Going to feel like you want some chili. I'm saying under, and you'll hear that reflected in my score coming up in a minute.
You'll hear this reflected in my score. I'm going over. I'm one of the rare people that's straying a little higher in this game. I don't think weather is going to be a factor in this game, it'll be chilly. But sometimes weather is a factor in this game. I'm gonna take the over 42.5.
I watched the Pittsburgh-Cleveland NFL game on Thursday night, and I just wish we could get a game like that for Nebraska, Wisconsin.
Amazing. That was fantastic. All right, are we going to speed through these before we take a break here?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, here we go.
Well, you want to come back? Let's come back. Give this a little more time. Let's come back and talk about Nebraska's player prop bets. I like that idea.
Take a break. We'll be back after this.
All right. Okay, with that, I am here to tell you about Prize Picks. It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with more than 5 million active users. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is you pick more or less. So you get a number and you pick more or less as it relates to 2 to 6 stat projections. And then you watch the winnings roll in. You can right now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct selections. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So if one of your players gets injured, you stay in the game. Here's how it works. You pick a player, say you pick Tyreek Hill to go for more than 90 yards receiving. Say you pick Jameis Winston. That game happened last night, but you could pick him again. He was my favorite person in the world. Listening to his interviews last night, Jameis
Incredible.
just has reemerged on the scene. Say you pick him to go for more than 250 yards or less than 250 yards. That's your pick. Josh Allen. There's all kinds of picks you can make. You understand what I'm saying here. Set your lineup, you sit back, and then you count your winnings. Download Prize Picks, the app, today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's Locked On College on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need a win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
And I would like to tell you a little bit about our friends from Home Field, folks. The seasons are officially changing. It's in the 20s when you walk out the door in Nebraska this time of year, and basketball season's right around the corner. So you want to get geared up with our friends from Home Field, the exclusive apparel provider of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. The gear is incredible. We're talking about vintage designs. People will come up to you at the basketball game at Pinnacle Bank Arena and they'll say, where in the world did you get that shirt, that hoodie, that quarter zip, whatever it might be? That is awesome. And you'll say, Home Field, baby. They rule. Home Field is here to make your experience shopping more enjoyable as well. And of course, the gear is fantastic. Based in Indianapolis, they specialize in incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage designs. And like I said, they're gearing you up for the entire season in all kinds of weather. You can get your hands on a football box still. It still contains 3 never-before-seen items and curated specifically for fans in all seasons. You can upgrade to the Platinum VIP box where you get tons of extra stuff as well. Check all of it out. Visit our friends at Home Field, homefieldapparel.com. Use that code GBR24, and that's going to help you out at checkout. Use that code GBR24, homefieldapparel.com. We love the stuff, and that's our friends from Home Field.
Okay, welcome back on this Friday at the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I am Mitch Sherman. Connor Happer is with me. We left off talking about the over-unders on Nebraska. We're going to move on to some prop bets as it relates to Nebraska, Wisconsin, coming up Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time on the Big Ten Network. Starting off with Nebraska's leader in receiving yardage for this game. We need a name, please.
So I kind of have I had an oddly specific prediction this week with the boys from Husker 247.
Give it to me.
And it was that Jalen Lloyd is going to catch a nice long touchdown in this game, a la last year. Is it enough to make him the leading receiver for Nebraska in this game? I'm going to say no. Let's go with the consistent Jamal Banks who got going a little bit last week.
Yeah. I let my son make these picks.
Nice.
He's probably better at it than I am. Maybe not with Nebraska football, but just about everything else when it comes to sports picks. He said Isaiah Nair, so I'm going with Isaiah Nair.
All right.
Next on the list. So we did the run pass split last week. We picked would Nebraska run the ball more or throw the ball more? And you called a percentage. And if you got it within 10%, then you won the pick. I just want to let you know that in that selection last week, I said Nebraska would go 60% pass, and it ended up 38 out of 63 plays were passes, which is 60.3%. So feeling good about that. This week, the run pass split for Nebraska is what?
I love the number, and I think it kind of works similarly. Let's give myself a little bit of clearance here and go with 57% pass in this game.
57 pass. I'm saying 50-50 this week. I think it's more of a November in the Big Ten kind of game. You're not in Los Angeles anymore, and 50-50.
Okay.
We are going to do the same thing for Wisconsin. What will Wisconsin do in the run pass split?
Maybe a little closer.
We don't know.
Back to their roots. Maybe if that's what you're thinking this week.
Can you do that in a week with a new OC?
I don't know. Let's say 52% run for Wisconsin.
52 run. I said 60 run. So I do think Wisconsin is going to have an overreaction offensively to the firing of Phil Longo and the installment of unnamed offensive coordinator, and we'll try to get back to being the ground and pound Wisconsin that all of its fans know and love. But look, you built a team to try to throw the football. You still have that team. I don't think it's going to work that well for the Badgers. 60% run. Having said that, who will score the first points in this Nebraska-Wisconsin game?
Like which person?
Yeah, I need a name of a player on either team.
All right. I will give you a player. Are you ready for this? This is off the board. Well, I mean, it's on the board, but it hasn't been on the board so far yet this year. Tom Fidone.
Yes.
Tom Fidone gets in the end zone first for Nebraska.
If he starts going by Tom, maybe that would change the luck of his lack of touchdowns this season, which sits at 0 after 5 touchdowns a year ago. Maybe one of the more unpredictable statistics throughout this season. I am going to say the aforementioned Tawee Walker from Wisconsin, probably the best running back on the field in this game. I think it's going to be a day of pounding the football, or at least attempting to pound the football. So in sticking with my prediction that there will be multiple lead changes in this game, putting Wisconsin on the board first.
All right.
And we will now pick the game itself. Nebraska is, as of now, a 1.5 point favorite over the Badgers. What did your shirt say, Connor?
It says, all my homies hate Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. I see that. That's nice.
And that's all my homies. That's even my Creighton homies as well. They don't care about Wisconsin either.
Yeah. All right. Huskers -1.5.
Nebraska 27, Wisconsin 21. I think there's going to be a couple more points than most people think in this game, and they break 40,000 bad streaks that they're on, and get off the shine against Wisconsin, and finally claim the Freedom Trophy. I think it is.
Listeners and viewers, pay attention to what he says there, because last week I'm a equal opportunity going back and praising us on this pod for things that we picked correctly. You said last week that USC would beat Nebraska 28-21. Oh, so close. It was 28-20.
Needed that point, by the way, for the record, you know.
I said 27-21, so I missed both teams by 1 point. This week, we nailed that. That's like the first time this year. This week, I'm saying, I was back and forth on this all week. I was very close to picking Wisconsin to winning this game. Just, you know, it's Nebraska, Wisconsin. Like, we've been down this road before. We've seen this. 21-17 Nebraska. That's my pick. I think it's going to happen. I'm going with it. Nebraska gets the win on Senior Day, and the Huskers, of course, cover the spread. 1.5 point favorite.
I kind of like the vibes right now. I don't know. I just I feel like they. I don't know. Matt Rule probably his face would have told you something different yesterday, but I don't know. I like Nebraska's disposition going into this game.
That was kind of
depressing.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. That was like, I'm feeling the pressure, Matt Rule. That was, I'm not going to be happy today, Matt Rule, which is okay. Like, I think that's good. I think that's good. Like, we've seen nice Matt Rule a lot. Like, let's have an edge.
A little angry in there.
Yeah. Angry Matt Rule. Okay. He wasn't angry. Here we go. Bonus bet last week. I believe I got this right. We picked the first play of the game that Dana Holgerson would call. I said Dylan Raiola incompletion. That was correct. You said handoff to Emmett Johnson. That was incorrect. So I now have 2 correct bonus bets this season. It is tonight. Nebraska at Creighton on the hardwood. The Jays are a 10.5 point favorite in this game. The over-under in this game is 150.5. We're going to pick both. You have to get both of these right in order, like a little 2-team parlay. Check out FanDuel in order to win the bonus bet.
Yeah. So I I'm going to take Creighton 83, Nebraska 68.
All right.
That's
that's the Jays to cover.
Yeah, that is the Jays to cover. I just like Nebraska has not made enough 3-pointers this year for me to feel comfortable that they could keep in this game. Like they in fact, they really haven't made any 3-pointers. So, I mean, and then, if you're asking to get all your points inside against the best defensive player in the country, it's just a hard ask. And I think Creighton they haven't shot it consistently, but they've shot it consistently better than Nebraska has. So, Creighton gets the home crowd behind them, and they win tonight pretty comfortably in Omaha.
So you're looking at Ryan Kalkbrenner's impact to be more on the defensive side. Of course, he is the multi-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year, but he's been so good offensively this year. I don't think he's missed a shot all season. Is that correct? Is that correct?
I think he's missed 5 or 6 all year, which is amazing.
I'll be interested to see if Braxton Mia, Nebraska's big center, the big transfer from Washington, can slow him down a bit. I don't think he can keep up the pace. That's the thing. Like Mia's been playing like 15 minutes a game in the neighborhood of that, and Kalkbrenner can just run up and down the court all day. So
they're going to throw 100 different double teams and stuff at him, and then Creighton's going to have opportunities to make baskets, and they usually get pretty good looks, and I think they'll knock enough down. I'm
going to say Creighton to cover the 10.5. Creighton wins, of course, by double digits, but I'm going under. You, with your 83 to 68 prediction, are going over by just a half point. Like what a line!
Wow, I didn't even know that.
15.5. Yeah, very, 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 very good. So Creighton over for you, Creighton under for me is the pick tonight. All right, we got Big Ten games and national games to discuss. We're going to rip through those when we come back after this. Okay, I'm going to tell you quickly here about ZBiotics. It is a sponsor of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after you go out drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. This is the byproduct, not the dehydration that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Then you drink responsibly. You feel your best the next day. I just explained it. Drink responsibly. Remember, pace yourself, hydrate, get a good night's sleep, and then enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. That's the letter Z Biotics to get 15% off your first order. You can learn more on the website. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for that discount. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off at checkout.
All right. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the FanDuel Sportsbook. What a perfect weekend for it. You could take all these lines and cash in on them with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You get the hunch in the middle of the game. Live betting is, of course, available for you there. But also, man, I just love looking at the slate on a Sunday with the NFL or on a Saturday with college football and just selecting whatever looks good to me. You should do that. And if you're a new customer, you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. You need to get on this deal right now. Head to FanDuel.com today. FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, here we go, Mitch. We got 8 games to rip through, 4 in the Big Ten and 4 nationally. We're going to take a close look at the Big 12 this weekend. Can't wait to do that here in just a couple minutes. But we begin in Columbus, Indiana at Ohio State, the referendum game of all referendum games for these programs. The Buckeyes, as Gus Johnson would say, are 11.5-point favorites. Big noon, Fox, tomorrow morning.
We're going to get the real Gus back at the Horseshoe this week. It's this is not going to be the Purdue Ohio State Gus. This is going to be the big game Gus. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this game. I want to get to Lincoln early so I can sit down, settle down into a chair, and watch this game. Just to be clear, if you're thinking about listening to our advice and actually putting it to work, be careful. I was 3-5 last week. Connor was 2-6 last week on our Big Ten national game. So for the season, I'm 42-53-1. That's awful. You are 48-47-1. So you're still above 500. All right. On this game, Indiana at Ohio State, I am taking the Buckeyes to win and win by more than 12 points or more.
I just think that's a big number. I'm gonna take Indiana. I'm stressed out about it. And I do think there's like a way where Indiana can win this football game. Ohio State's a little bit beat up. They're going to be missing their center. They've already have offensive line problems throughout the entire season. And Indiana's going to dial up some heat on Will Howard. So I'm going to take the Hoosiers to cover the 11.5.
Nice. All right, got it down.
All right, let's head out to College Park, Iowa is a 5.5 point favorite at Maryland, 11 o'clock on BTN. I will not be watching this game.
I was about one injury away from Kirk Ferentz taking snaps at quarterback in this game. So I don't know if Cade McNamara is on the trip or what his situation is, but it doesn't sound good that he's going to be playing anymore for the Hawkeyes this season. So is it Jackson Bratton? Is that no? Who's the quarterback?
He's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Lanes,
what's the name?
Lanes is another one that they have. And then they have, what's his name? Sullivan, the transfer for Northwestern.
He's hurt.
Season 2. Yeah. This is nuts.
Maryland to win. Maryland. I don't know if Maryland's going to win the game. Maryland's going to cover the 5.5.
Iowa's their way to like a 17-3 win or something like that. Give me Iowa.
Yeah. Caleb Johnson should just play quarterback.
Yeah, that's a great. Nebraska went into that game once, basically having Rex Burkhead as their quarterback. So, why can't Iowa do the same thing? Penn State travels to Minnesota this weekend. This is the Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson CBS game. Penn State's 11.5 point favorites. I'm sure the weather will be cooperative in Minneapolis this weekend.
So this is usually the time of year where Penn State or like all hope is lost because Penn State has 1 or 2 defeats and they've just resigned themselves to the fact that there's nothing left to do except go to the Citrus Bowl. Not this year. Penn State is set to be a host in the first round of the college football playoff. So I think we're going to see an invigorated group of Nittany Lions. They've got everything in front of them despite that loss against Ohio State a few weeks ago. 11.5. Forget it. Penn State wins and covers.
I think this game is close. Give me PJ and the Gophers to cover the 11.5 at home. It's going to be rowdy for that crowd in the Twin Cities. I'll go with Minnesota there. And a very Big Ten game on the West Coast. We got color on color. USC and UCLA, 9:30 NBC. USC is a 4.5 point favorite. What do you think about that line? First of all, I don't know who I would pick to be the favorite in this game. Honestly,
I don't know. That seems like a too large of a number because both of these teams, they've been headed in opposite directions. Yeah, USC got the win over Nebraska last week at home. UCLA got the win over Nebraska the week before at Memorial Stadium. Pretty similar games. We are not going to see the sunset behind the San Gabriel Mountains at the Rose Bowl because this game starts at 9:30 Central Time, 7:30 on the West Coast. Having been out there last week, the sun will be down when the game starts. 4.5 point favorite, USC does not cover and does not win. The Bruins to win.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. I was going to go the same direction. Give me UCLA. It just feels like a team that has its bleep together a little bit more at this point in time. All right, on to the major games of the weekend. We zoom in on the heart of America, the Big 12. But we head out to the American Southwest, where BYU is coming off of its first loss of the season to Kansas. They go to an ever-surging Arizona State. By the way, Arizona State is the favorite in this game. Arizona State is a 3.5 point favorite, not BYU.
Is that right? I have this wrong?
Yeah. Yes, correct. But Arizona State is the favorite, so pick it that way. They're a 3.5 point favorite.
Well, that changes things for me. but I'm still going with Arizona State. So this is weird, and I was wondering about this. I wrote this down wrong in our rundown. So thank you for noticing that and correcting it, so we didn't pick this game completely off. I was wondering how BYU could be a 3.5-point favorite, which it is not, after it was a 2.5-point favorite last week at home against Kansas. Right. And now it's playing an 8-2 Arizona State team. It made no sense to me at all. I should have double checked it. Thank you for being my proofreader. I'm still taking Arizona State to win and cover the spread.
Yeah, give me Kenny Dillingham and them boys out there. BYU, it's been a good, and this is gonna this turns the Big 12 into chaos. And if there's a certain result in the next game that we pick as well, it turns the Big 12 into even more chaos. So let's go there. We're both on Arizona State. Colorado is a slight favorite, 2.5 points at Kansas, the surging Kansas Jayhawks, who had trouble figuring it out and now maybe have their win over BYU last week. This game's at 2:30 on Fox.
This game's at Arrowhead Stadium too.
Yep, that's right.
In Kansas City. So I put at Kansas, and it is a Kansas home game, but Kansas doesn't have a stadium. So playing at Arrowhead, Shadur Sanders, he's going to channel his inner Patrick Mahomes. No upset here. No upset here. I know we're looking for chaos, like major chaos. If Kansas wins this game, as you referenced, and Arizona State wins, I don't even know. The Big 12 might just have to forfeit its spot in the college football playoff. Just give it to another SEC team. That's the Greg Sankey proposal that I think is out there on the table this week.
Yes.
Yeah. Not true, but hilarious. Colorado to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm gonna take chaos theory. I'm gonna go with KU.
Nice.
And like you said, I have no idea what happens as a result of this game. I think Colorado can still get in, but it brings in a whole bunch of other teams to the picture that weren't there, a week ago. So I'm gonna go with Kansas. They're surging, and I think they could keep up in a track meet. It's just the defense that's sort of the question in this game for KU.
We saw this Tuesday in the rankings that the committee is now putting Boise State as the champ of the Mountain West ahead of the Big 12 champ. And I don't know if we had talked about it on this show or if I talked about it somewhere else. Like, could this happen in year one of the playoff that the G5 school gets the bye over the Power 4 school? And their consensus was like, nah, can't happen. Not without an undefeated G5. Nope, it might happen because the Big 12 is so messed up.
Speaking of G5s trending in the right direction, here is Army undefeated heading to Yankee Stadium heading downstate to Yankee Stadium to play Notre Dame, likely playoff bound Notre Dame, who's a 2-touchdown and a hook favorite. This is 6:00 on NBC, the biggest Army game in quite some time.
Yeah, what a spectacle this is going to be. You want chaos. How about Army wins this game and it's 10-0? Then you got to start looking at Army as a potential playoff team.
Are you doing it?
Maybe over Boise, and then that takes Notre Dame out of the mix. So I don't even know what the implications would be if Army wins this game. No, I'm not doing it. I got Notre Dame to win and cover the 14 plus the hook.
Yeah, Notre Dame smashed Navy. And that's what's giving me pause here. So I will take Notre Dame as well. Although I love the chaos. I want it to happen very badly, but I just can't pick it too. So give me Notre Dame here. And then we finish in the SEC. We have to toss a bone to the SEC, I guess, somehow here. Alabama is going on the road to Norman, who is Oklahoma is looking to become bowl eligible. They are in the same spot Nebraska and Wisconsin are in at 5-5. Bama is a 13.5-point favorite. This is your SEC game of the week, believe it or not, 6:30 on ABC.
So Jesse Temple and I, Jesse's our Wisconsin writer, we did a piece that came out on The Athletic on Thursday about who would you rather be, Nebraska or Wisconsin in this moment, both at 5-5. We should have done this with Nebraska and Oklahoma. Oklahoma at 5-5 has Alabama and then at LSU to finish the regular season. Whew. Oklahoma's not going to a bowl game this year. That's the deal. But the Sooners will cover the 13.5 against Alabama, lose the game by 10.
Wow. I'm gonna take Alabama here. Oklahoma finishes with LSU, by the way, and that's why you're saying they're not going to a bowl game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At the Death Valley.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Bama here to win by at least 2 touchdowns. Oklahoma doesn't have near enough offense to stay in this game.
Okay, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for continuing to listen to us, watching us on YouTube. Been a fun week. Will be even more fun for Nebraska next week if the Huskers don't have to worry about bowl eligibility going to Iowa on Black Friday. We'll be back here to talk about all of that. Reaction to Nebraska-Wisconsin on Saturday at Memorial Stadium. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig puts the Big Ten first. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.